Extremely dangerous Hurricane Dorian is stationary near Grand Bahama Island. I'm Mike Nasel with the latest on this very, very historic hurricane. Hurricane Dorian, as of 11 p.m. Eastern Time, was at 26.9 north, 78.5 west. Winds still about 130 miles an hour, so it's still a Category 4. Stationary, it's not moving. It didn't move this afternoon, didn't move last night. Right near Grand Bahama Island. And that pressure, 946 millibars. Of course, when it hit Abaco Island, it was 911 millibars. So it was 30 millibars more intense barometric pressure-wise when it really leveled Abaco Island, the worst hurricane in their history. You can see the forecast track here through time from the National Hurricane Center brings our Dorian. Continues a slow west-northwest to northwest movement right parallel to the Florida coast by Wednesday night. Pardon me. Been talking a lot this week with this hurricane. By Wednesday night, it should be parallel to Georgia. And then we're going to begin to see a faster motion by Thursday, paralleling the Outer Banks. If you're on Hatteras, be on the lookout. It's still expected to be a powerful Category 2 hurricane by then. And then a Category 1 as it parallels the New Jersey coastline. And by Saturday, up in areas of Nova Scotia. Now, it could be on the right side of this, it could be on the left side, and could still make landfall. We have to throw that out there just as a disclaimer. If this does make landfall in Cape Canaveral, Florida, as a Category 3 hurricane, you can't say, they said it wasn't going to come here. No, you're in the cone, so you still have to be on the alert. However, regardless of whether or not it stays offshore, those hurricane force winds could get pretty darn close. You can see the wind field here through time. It began, of course, as a tropical storm last week, and it was very small, moved through the islands here, and then strengthened into a hurricane near St. Thomas, where they had 100-mile-an-hour winds, bent to the north, bent back west under the ridge, and just exploded into a Category 5 storm as it crossed Abaco and Grand Bahama Island. And it's still a Category 4. I mean, this thing has weakened 55 miles per hour, and it is still a Category 4. That should show you how strong it was yesterday. And, of course, this area has just been relentlessly pounded with hurricane force winds. But note right there, tropical storm force winds and gusts are beginning to affect Florida. We've had gusts on areas of Palm Beach getting close to, say, 50 miles an hour. So, again, it's going to be a blustery night, and you're going to have storm surge 4 to 7 feet along these areas because of that onshore flow. And remember, even if you don't get a landfall of an eye wall, you're still going to have beach erosion, high swells, dangerous rip currents. Don't go out in the water, because I know some people are going to try it. It is so dangerous. But still, obviously, those winds are impinging on Florida, and if the track gets too close, then we'll have hurricane force winds, certainly in gusts. So we've already had a lot of power outages along the Florida East Coast, and just a real mess. And just think, this hurricane's still 100 miles away. Imagine if it hadn't slowed down. Imagine if that ridge hadn't broke down. Oh, you are so lucky in Florida. Here's the Melbourne radar, and you can see Dorian definitely has some dry air interacting in the left side of the eye here, so it doesn't look as hot as it has. But for a hurricane that's been spinning over land for about 24 to 36 hours, 130-mile-an-hour Cat 4 is a monster. Look at how Grand Bahama Island here has just been pounded relentlessly, nonstop. And look at the eye wobbles north and wobbles south again, and then it's totally stationary. It's not moving at all, and that is just prolonging the devastation in those areas of the Bahamas. You can see some good rain bands coming into Florida now. On the east coast here, Cape Canaveral just to the south, you guys are getting some good ones, and those are continuing inland throughout the state of Florida right now. Again, we'll eventually see this hurricane waddle its way up towards the northwest, but it's not moving very fast at all, and the rainfall threat in the Bahamas and even along the east coast of Florida has increased for sure. Here are the computer models, and you can see its current stationary motion here. It is expected by almost all the models to make that turn very close to the coast, but you can see some of them bring it inland. Obviously, we have the HWRF model, the UK Met. They're taking it inland over areas of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So again, you know, Hurricane Floyd was a monster storm as it ravaged Abaco Island, but I mean, Floyd was a baby compared to Dorian. But Floyd came up and then ended up making landfall near Cape Fear as a Category 2, so we could see something like that. That can't be ruled out, but it looks like there's going to be enough of a kick in the jet stream to push, I almost said Floyd, Dorian on out and keep it offshore. But again, there is still the chance of a direct landfall anywhere along the coast from, say, Cape Canaveral all the way up to Hatteras. So if you live in these areas, listen to your local officials and heed any evacuation warnings. And remember, even if it stays offshore, there could be serious flood and surge threats up the coastline. Here's our beast. Look at it spinning like a top. Beautiful. A little bit of degrading on the western side there, more than we've seen. You can see kind of a little flatness. So it's definitely feeling the impact of cooler waters. By the way, the depth of some of these waters, right where the eye is over, literally 10, 12 feet. These are shallow, shallow waters. So if it sits for too long, it's going to kick up cooler waters, and you'll see these dark colors start to turn lighter as the hurricane weakens. And remember, it was a Category 5. It's now a low-end Category 4, but anything over a 3 is still a major hurricane. And if it went over Grand Bahama Island as a Category 5 and it's sitting there, who cares if the winds are going down? They're not stopping. And so that's just prolonging an already devastating situation there. Very, very devastating. The worst in their history, I think, for both islands. Certainly Abaco, probably the worst in the history of Grand Bahama Island. Again, Dorian will eventually make that turn, but right now, spinning like a top there in the northwest Bahamas. I did want to note that we do have other features in the tropics. I mean, it's September 2nd, September 3rd. It's getting close to the peak of the hurricane season. There, of course, is our massive Hurricane Dorian sitting over Grand Bahama Island. You can see here it's trapped between the two ridges. Now, in a nutshell, what happened with Dorian was we had a ridge of high pressure to the north of it, the Bermuda High, steering it straight west. We originally thought that was going to continue it right into Florida, but we had a piece of energy pull off here and erode the ridge. However, Dorian doesn't have anything to kick it right out to sea, so it has to wait. And so there's no steering currents. And so Dorian's like, what do I do? And eventually we'll see it eventually get out of here, but what a dangerous storm. We do have other features. We have an invest area here in the Gulf of Mexico, could become a tropical storm and head west or west-southwest underneath that ridge to the west of Dorian, and that would push the system into Mexico. We have a tropical feature here near Bermuda. This could become a system, but that's obviously going to move out like Dorian. We have an invest that's almost a tropical depression, almost off your screen, and then off the screen we have another wave leaving Africa, and both those systems could develop. So, by the way, our next names, remember a couple of days ago we had Aaron already, a weak tropical storm. Our next names are Fernand, Gabrielle, Umberto, and Imelda. So we'll see how far down the name list we get, but obviously I could tell you this, we'll never see another Dorian. That name will be stricken from the list. So I'm Mike Naso from the YouTube IPR 365 Tropical Video Update page with yet another video update on powerful Hurricane Dorian, stationary near Grand Bahama Island with devastating effects. I'll see you next time.